everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti and today I am back with another Continental knitting tutorial. Today's knitting tutorial will feature the zigzag rib stitch. This stitch is absolutely gorgeous. It gives you this beautiful ripply zigzaggy pattern going up and down your ribs. It is not a reversible stitch. As you can see, this is the back. This is the front of the work. I really love how this stitch is working up in this color, so I'm not going to rip up this swatch, but I did want to show this to you guys before we jump into the tutorial. I have some slightly different takes on getting started with this stitch and some helpful end notes that hopefully will save you a lot of frustration. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this tutorial. Just let me slip my stitches onto a stitch marker holder. Just rip that out of there and set it to the side. I fully intend on going back on this one. So to begin, we are going to use both of our knitting needles to cast on here. This will give us a looser tension in the beginning, and in my opinion it helps you to work the stitch a lot better. You can use any cast on method that you would like, but you will want to cast on in multiples of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if this is something that you want a more in-depth conversation on, I have a video back in my knitting tutorial playlist on my channel, so you can head over there and find that. And hopefully you'll subscribe, because I will be posting knitting tutorials on Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. CST. So you'll want to stick around for that. My initial swatch had a total of 18 stitches. I think I'll do 15 today though. 3, 6, 7, 8. So here's 9. Let's not do that. Alright, and here I have 15 stitches. Now that I have all of my stitches here on my needle, what I want to do is just wiggle out the needle that I won't be using for this process. Alright, and as you can see, I have a wider, very neat cast on. Alright, now I am ready to turn my work. I'm going to get rid of this super long tail so I don't confuse it. And now we are going to get into the knitting. So this is a 2-row repeat. So what we want to do for the first row is we are going to bring the yarn forward and we are going to purl 1. Okay. Now we're going to bring the yarn to the back. We are going to knit through the back loop. So we're not going to work into this first stitch right here, but the second one, the one next to it. And we're going to knit through the back loop. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and work through that back loop, like so. We're not going to pull anything off our needle just yet. We're going to come back around to the front to this first stitch that we skipped. We're going to insert our needle knitwise and we're just going to knit it as normal. And then we're going to pull it off the needle. Alright, and then we're going to bring the yarn forward and purl 1. And that is our repeat for the entirety of this row. So I'm going to do this again. We are going to make sure the yarn is to the back. We're going to skip this next stitch on our left needle, and we are going to work into the one next to it. Through the back loop, we're going to knit through the back loop, pull up that loop. We're now going to address the stitch we skipped, so we're going to insert knitwise and knit that stitch as normal, and we're going to pull both of those stitches off of our needle, bring the yarn forward and purl 1. Alright, I'm here at my last purl 1, and you will notice that you have 2 stitches left at the end of the row. Don't freak out. When I first learned this stitch, I ripped it back like 8 times, so thinking that I'd done it wrong and recounting and all that. So the thing is, here, after that last purl 1, what you want to do, you're going to finish this row on the repeat of the knit, on the knit stitches. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and work in that last stitch, knitting through the back loop, and then we're going to knit the stitch we just skipped as normal and pull both off the needle. And that's how you end row 1. You will have a little loopy here, but that just comes with how these stitches fall. You can straighten that out later. We're going to move on to row 2 now of our 2 row repeat. So for row 2, we are going to knit this first stitch. So normal old stitch. And row 2 is also the wrong side of the work. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start our purl sequence. So again, we are going to skip this first stitch, and into the second stitch we're just going to purl as normal. Pull up a loop, and you'll notice that I pull my loops up a little taller just to make sure that I have enough wiggle room to move my right hand needle. And I'm going to insert the tip of my needle into that stitch that we just skipped, not applying my yarn there, and we are just going to purl as normal and pull both stitches off the needle. And then the next stitch we're going to knit. It's easy as that. So I'm going to do that again. Bring the yarn to the front, going to purl. We're going to skip this first stitch and we're going to purl into the second stitch, pull up a little loop. We're going to come back to this stitch that we just skipped, and we're going to purl in that, just normal old purl stitch. And now we're going to pull both of those loops off our needle, and then we are going to knit, knit the next stitch. Okay, and we're going to do that all the way across our project. Alright, I have finished off my second row, and now I am back on the right side of my work, and this is what this segment looks like here. Also a helpful tip, you may want to grab yourself a little stitch marker just to place on the right side of your work, but it should be very evident after a few workups, but for the sake of the math, you know, because sometimes it's easy to forget whether or not you're on the front or back of a piece. So I like to put a little stitch marker in there just to indicate that. Alright, so now we are going to go back to a repeat of row 1. So our first stitch, our first stitch is going to be a purl. Bring the yarn to the front. And purl. Alright, and now we are going to bring the yarn to the back. We are going to skip the first stitch. We are going to knit that second stitch through the back loop. And we're going to come around and knit into that stitch we skipped. And we're going to pull both loops off the needle. Bring the yarn forward, and we are going to purl the next stitch. Right, all the way across. working into my last purl stitch, and again we're going to work those last 2 stitches as though we are starting our repeat. So we're going to work in that last stitch, knitting through the back loop, and then coming back and working into that stitch we skipped. We're going to knit a regular stitch and pull both stitches off the needle. Alright, and now we are ready for row 4. Again, row 4 is a repeat of row 2. So we're going to knit the first stitch. And in some ways this second row in the repeat is easier because you don't have to remember to work in the back loop. So all we're going to do is skip this first stitch, purl the next stitch, come back and work into the stitch we skipped with a purl stitch, pull both stitches off of the needle, bring the yarn to the back, and we're going to knit that stitch, and then the repeat starts over. Skip, purl, go back, purl, pull both stitches off the needle, yarn to the back, knit, all the way to the end of the row. Let's not purl that. We're going to knit this last knit stitch. Alright, and then we again are going to finish the row kind of like we started it. We're going to skip this second to last stitch, work into the last stitch with a purl, and then we're going to go back and purl that stitch we skipped. Alright, and that has been the zigzag rib stitch. If you keep working up your project, you will end up with something similar to this one. Like I said, I'm keeping this. I am very inspired by this stitch right now, so I might end up designing something later in the year using this stitch. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. If so, don't forget to leave this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you found value in this tutorial. It helps out the channel a whole lot, and it lets YouTube know that my content is worthy. Don't forget to check me out over on Instagram, where I post my knitting and crochet whips and pattern releases and things like that. You can head over to the website also and sign up for that newsletter so you'll never miss out when I post new crafty content. You can leave me a comment down below. Let me know how I did. Let me know what knitting techniques you have questions about or want to see me cover in the future. And until next time, guys, happy making!